My name is Steve Phatlane. I've been a senior lecturer at the University of South Africa for the past 18 years, teaching South African history. And that's probably why I'm involved in the Steve Albert Luthuli's oral history competition. And I'm currently the managing director of Tausho Gang Lodge. It's in Mpumalanga. I'm teaching at the University of Pretoria, distance education. I'm also teaching at the ANC political school. No, it's important because, you know, the youth of today, they take the gains of democracy very lightly because they don't compare this with what happened before. So it's only through history that they can get to appreciate that things have changed so much since the last 20 years. It's very important that people go back to history. It is very unfortunate that from the dawn of democracy, history was undermined. You know, it was shelved at the background, and people concentrated more on commerce and the natural sciences. But then later it's dawned on the leadership of this country that they can't wish away history. And now it is coming back in full force. And some people are even talking of making history a compulsory subject. So just how important people came to realize that history can just not be ignored, you know. You know, I'm a product of the University of the North. I attended at the University of the North in the 1980s. And the University of the North was known throughout the country as being the most activist-infested institution, because I remember in 1985 we actually boycotted classes as students because we said we wanted Bantu education to be removed in its entirety. It needed to be scrapped. And then, as you can imagine, not a single institution could bring that about. But then the University of the North student body said we are not going back to classes until Bantu education is scrapped in its entirety. And students from other universities, they thought that maybe we were crazy, you know. How could we collapse Bantu education being a single university? But that is what we did. And then the state of emergency was declared. When I woke up in the morning, my room was surrounded by members of the armed forces, the South African Defence Force, and then we were beaten. Every time we went on strike, we would say direction, then everybody would say Mankweng. Mankweng is the police station where we were handing over memoranda, and every time we protested against the system of apartheid, we would go to the police station, either to bend the flag or to try and stone the police vehicles, and then they would come back to the university running because the police would come after us. So we have been affected in big time by apartheid at that time, you know. From there, even in our villages, we have been protesting against apartheid, and then the apartheid government, that time it was still the Bantustan governments. They would not hesitate to send the Meloyenos and the Koyokos to come and harass us. So we were victims of the system on a daily basis. We were living hell at the time. I remember you wouldn't, even when I was still at high school, you wouldn't just close schools and go to your relatives anywhere without a pass. If you were still a student, you'd have to have we call that, what was it? The principal needed to write you something so that you could visit somebody in town or something like that. I've just forgotten the name of that, but they would just say, hier die studentes met schoolvakansie vanaf tot die. And after that period, you'd be arrested. So that's how we were affected by Bantu education and by apartheid. Things that we have witnessed are self-explanatory. All those things that I've just spoken about are not there anymore. People are looking where we are now in Misty Hills. I can imagine not everybody was allowed here during that time because there was this reservations for recreational facilities, and this place, posh as it is, it would be reserved for whites, you know. But then here we are together. A lot has changed ever since. You only needed to have lived at that time so that you can appreciate these changes. In better country, we have the most progressive constitution, and then we can only build from there. It's unfortunate that other people might use the constitution or might use the transparency or they might use the freedom that they have to the detriment of the country in the name of transparency, in the name of I'm free to do 1, 2, 3, and then this might actually be a problem for the country itself. But if we use all the institutions that we have created for the good of the country, South Africa is destined for bigger things.